especially at this time of year. First, I'll talk about the Grinch who stole Jesus. With Christmas approaching, the river to the sea globalizers are once again waving the imbecilic claim that Jesus was a Palestinian. Just like the Grinch who stole Christmas, these grumpy creatures are appropriating the Christmas holiday to make it all about them. Back in the 70s, these same creatures were hijacking planes and making travel miserable for everyone. Then in the 80s, they were kidnapping journalists. And now in recent years, they've hijacked the narrative. While you, back in Europe and the United States, are decorating your towns with nativity scenes, they need to decorate their lies to make it seem cozy. As fake as the whole Palestinian issue, this fabrication has no historical basis. It is no more than a contemporary tactic designed to rewrite the past and to delegitimize Israel in the present. And the media spread and disseminate this lie continuously. So, show us, for example, where in the New Testament does it say or even mention Palestine? Because when you look at the actual accounts of the Holy Land from the 18th and 20th centuries, written by Western travelers, scholars, and historians who came here, you find that they talk about Arabs, Bedouins, Jews, Christians, even Turks, but not a single mention of Palestinian, whether people, nation, or even a national identity. The idea simply did not exist. So don't let political activists misrepresent history that was written by actual witnesses who were here over the centuries. And finally, one last point, lies, the liberty, and the pursuit of Israel. Interesting thing is, in the comments, how often people don't really hear, or they hear what they want to hear. And a few commenters last week called me out for saying that there's never been an incident in which Jews retaliated against terrorist attacks in their countries. They immediately wave October 7th and other events in Israel which Israel took action against terrorists, apparently missing my point while confirming my point. I spoke about law-abiding citizens of the Jewish faith of countries in the West. Those of you commenting are talking about Israel. Not the same thing. Israel not only has the right, it, like any and every country in the world, has the obligation of defending its citizens and ridding itself of any threat posed to its security. And when those scum come for our children, they end up like this. This happened not as revenge. This is the consequence of them in Gaza constructing a murderous infrastructure among the buildings, schools, hospitals, shops, factories, homes, of civilian locations and the 750 miles of tunnels beneath the area and using those civilians as shields in Gaza. And when Hezbollah in Lebanon, Houthi terrorists in Yemen, and the Iranian regime attack, we followed up with this. Because we're not the helpless Jews of the past. We can and will defend ourselves and take action against our predators. All the tough, virtue-signaling cronies marching bravely in the streets of Europe, Australia, Canada, the United States, calling to support the terrorists and express open hostility towards Israel and also assaulting helpless Jews, you could have come here to fight. If you are really dedicated, that is, if you really care about your cause or the so-called resistance, why didn't you come here to fight for them? But you're all a bunch of whiny losers, like all those Muslims inciting you, who ran away from this region. Just like the goat-fornicating baby killers in Gaza, the Hezbollah, Syria, Yemen, Iran. Tough talkers. Whiny little wimps when they're stood up to. The Muslims outnumber us at about 10 million to 1, and yet we wipe the floor with them. This is what we mean. And here you see the heroes of October 7th who killed babies, raped women, assaulted the helpless. Israel dismantled the Syrian military and its government in 4 days. We wiped out the military capability of the strongest Muslim country, Iran, in 12 days. And we did this without losing a single soldier. We castrated the Hezbollah terror army in minutes with a single beeper message. We decapitated the Houthi leadership in one airstrike 2,000 kilometers away from our borders. This while fighting a war on 7 fronts and eliminated every one of the enemy military and political leaders, short of the supreme Iranian, whatever he calls himself, in Iran. So now Netanyahu is giving the world the opportunity to protect its own Jewish citizens. Otherwise, we'll have to do it. And all the keyboard Jew haters, We're not going to waste our time on rednecks and hicks who have an average IQ of 70. We live rent-free in your heads anyway. And no need to worry about committing suicide. You've all seen this trend, I assume, of the heroically anti-Israeli stating how, wink, wink, they wouldn't be committing suicide, suggesting that Israel or the Jews may want to take them out. Yeah, right. Those who are talking about how 2%, or more correctly, 0.2% of the world population controls everything. Well, sorry to disappoint you, idiots. We are a bit more sophisticated than that. Give us a little credit. First off, our abilities and technical skills, backdoors to chips and every piece of technology out there that you're using, we know everything about you already. If we did want to waste our time on you, it wouldn't be through suicide. It will be what you least expect, and by someone you would never consider a threat. Like the girl who hit on you last night, or the guys sitting next to you right now in the bar, or seated next to you at a football game. Maybe your doctor, maybe your neighbor. Heck, it could be even your best friend. We work the long run, and we're everywhere, and we look just like any one of you. Here, you see, I have this book. I just found this book of my friend David here, who wrote this book, David Katz, who wrote this book a few years ago. And you see the pictures, how Jews look like any one of you. And then you may be surprised about what we can or cannot do. Reminds me of a story a few years ago when I was director of the government press office. There was a journalist from Luxembourg here who didn't really deal with journalism. What we saw was he was doing most of the time was participating in different demonstrations against Israel, in the streets of Israel, in the territories, and always acting against the state of Israel. So we checked to see if he's a political protester. Why are we considering him a journalist? So we looked into his activities, and we found that he didn't meet any of the criteria. He was not sent from abroad. He was not paid by a media organization. He did not have more than one piece a week. He was doing nothing but participating in these demonstrations with the left wing in Israel. So we decided to not give him a press card and not have him continue having his visa to be present in Israel. And when we did that, I suddenly get a call from my contact in the Israeli security service, the security agency, the Shabak. And they said to us, we want you to give him a press card. And I was surprised. So why do you want us to give him a press card? You know, he's a political activist. Give him a press card. He's working for us. I was shocked. So we give him a press card. The funny thing is that about 2 years later, when we had to renew his press card, I get a call from the same contact, and he says to me, if you decide that this year you don't want to give him a press card, it's fine by us. I found out he stopped working with them. Before he was working for the money, it was very exciting for him to work undercover, exposing all of his contacts and all of his relations and everything that those demonstrators against Israel was doing. So with that said, as you can see, when I say it could be anybody, it can be anybody. It can be Candace or Tucker or maybe even Fuentes. I wonder. What do you think? No. Speaking of which, my connections at Mossad tell me that there are Christmas bonuses ready for all you guys for a job well done. All right, so now that that's out of the way, let's get to connecting the dots. Last week, at the end of the podcast, I mentioned how there is really no boycott against Israel, or no effective boycott. Maybe a few virtue-signaling fools in supermarkets in Europe. Yeah, like we'll really miss those 82 euros and 99 cents that they didn't spend. But look what has happened since then. This week, Israel announced its largest ever deal, $35 billion in an Israel-Egypt natural gas deal cooperation. So you've probably read or heard of the importance of it and the debates on whether or not there are other aspects, such as Egypt pulling out of its forces out of the Sinai, where they were violating the Camp David Accords. And Egypt immediately denied that there's any more to the agreement. Okay, whatever. It's more blah, blah. So the media have something new to talk about every day. And as I've said before, leaders will say what they need to say, but they'll do what they need to do. And this is one of those cases. And I want to piece together some of the other aspects of this and other things that are going on here that are mentioned in passing, and not to give you a perspective, but to complete the puzzle. What the hell is going on? So here are some of the points. Under the deal, the U.S. energy giant Chevron will be doing the transferring of gas to Egypt. That's millions in revenue for the United States economy right there in itself. For Egypt, a significant portion of Israel's gas exports currently depends on Egypt itself, and their liquefaction facility will enable exports to the rest of the world. A liquefaction facility is essentially the factory that turns natural gas into LNG, liquefied natural gas. I had to look that up. I had no idea what that meant. And that means that the Egyptians not only will be covering their needs in Egypt itself, but they'll also be exporting some of the gas they purchased from Israel to Europe, helping its own failing economy while providing Europe a clean energy source and reducing European dependency on Russia. In another issue, as we reach the winter solstice and the sun will now begin setting later and later in the day in the northern hemisphere, the U.S. released its plan, Project Sunrise, the Trump administration's pitch to foreign governments and investors to turn Gaza's rubble into a futuristic coastal destination for beachside luxury resorts, high-speed rail, AI-optimized smart grids. It all depends, of course, on the ridding of Hamas. But dreaming is good. Anyway, back to reality. American technology giant NVIDIA announced plans to establish a major new campus in Israel, becoming NVIDIA's second largest site after its Silicon Valley headquarters, employing more than 10,000 Israeli staff. And the head of NVIDIA said, and I quote, "Israel is home to some of the brightest technologists and engineers in the world and has become NVIDIA's second home. Our new campus will be a place where our teams can collaborate, invent, and build the future of AI." So, starting to see the broader picture develop here yet? Well, let's continue. In another event, it was revealed that the United Arab Emirates signed a $2.3 billion deal with the Israeli defense electronics company Elbit Systems last month. And combine that with another event. This week, Israel hosted a trilateral summit, bringing together the leaders of Israel, Greece, and Cyprus to discuss strengthening security cooperation in the Eastern Mediterranean. Israel, Greece, and Cyprus are considering establishing a joint rapid reaction military force as part of a broader effort to strengthen the military strategic cooperation among the three countries amid rising tensions in the Eastern Mediterranean. So the possible establishment of a joint naval force is expected to be among the issues that were discussed at this meeting. So all of these things, they're all part of a greater picture of a changing world. And this changing world all stems from this, the 2025 U.S. National Security Strategy detailing a coherent, and I'm quoting from the document, a coherent, focused strategy for how the USA interacts with the world, meant to ensure that America remains the world's strongest, richest, most powerful, and most successful country for decades to come. The new U.S. policy documents points to a global strategy shift. It divides the world into two regions, and this is what I'm getting from commentators here in Israel. The West, the free world, and the East, led by China. The struggle between them centers on three things: chips, artificial intelligence, and energy. Israel today is a powerhouse in all three of these areas. At the starting line of these fields, and thanks to its geographic position, Israel stands right in the center and is the strongest and most trusted ally of the United States. So it's no wonder then that Qatar and others are trying to weaken this bond. So now with the bigger picture a bit clearer, let's move on to two last points that the media continues to regurgitate, especially at this time of year. First, all of this and these tragedies because this week, once again, stories of the USS Liberty, American ship that was attacked in 1967 during the Six-Day War, have reemerged. And this despite the fact that the U.S. congressional investigation years ago confirmed that it was a tragic case of friendly fire and that the United States did not inform Israel of the presence of American naval ship in the vicinity. And it also confirmed that Israel did not know, and when it did know, it ceased its attack. And while talking about these things here, just 1 year ago this week, the very U.S. Navy itself had a tragic case of friendly fire incident, whereas the USS Gettysburg, part of the Truman Carrier Strike Group, mistakenly fired and shot down an FA-18 American Super Hornet as it was flying off the aircraft carrier USS Harry Truman. Luckily, there were no casualties in that incident, and hopefully all U.S. armed servicemen and women will celebrate the coming holidays safely back home during the Christmas time. So maybe we can finally put this story to rest and understand that tragedies happen and should not be manipulated for political purposes like this story continuously is by people who really don't care about what happened to the soldiers and the Navy personnel on the USS Liberty. All they care is by making Israel look bad.